Center. We have a special speaker who's been here once before, and he's brought some new people. I'm going to let Peter introduce them when we get to that point. Just a couple housekeeping things. Turn your phones off or put it on silent, all the phones. Respect the speakers, and enjoy this. This is good stuff, and I'll let Peter tell you, but I just visited their place last week. And oh, you're back. You're back. Got me. You're good. That's why you give me those pictures. But anyway. So in the meantime, I want to thank also Diane Hanley, who made all those brownies over there. Michelle Saucier, who helped with all the cleanup and stuff and set up, and Tim Annis. And I'll say hi to Paul. Paul made your cupcake because we just like you. Other than that, I want to introduce Peter DeCaro, the CEO and president of Resonate. Enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Clark. Appreciate it. So great to be here. Thanks everybody for coming out. This is a great turnout. We speak at a lot of these senior centers across the state. We do a lot of work with Sheriff Blue Evangelitis as well. And you know, one of the reasons why we do this is because well, I guess it's important to say that we are a medical and a recreational dispensary, and we, as you can tell by the picture that I put up, we produce all of our own products. And it's really important to us that we get out in the community and educate people on the proper use of cannabis. And I know it's something that we've talked about for a century. I always joke that this is a plant that college kids have been growing in their dorms for the last 100 years. But now it's getting a lot more advanced. It can be kind of confusing, and there's a lot of products that are out there. And Kathleen and I, from Alternative Wellness Centers, we've been touring around and we've been speaking to groups, and I'd like to encourage everybody today, if you have questions, feel free to stop us, fire away, don't hesitate. We've brought samples. No, I can't hand those out to everyone, so it's not for the purpose of consumption today, but it is for the purpose of demonstrating what some of the products look like inside of dispensaries and how they work. So we're going to go through that. But all in all, our presentation is to help people understand how to live their best life with CBD. CBD is a term that we hear all the time in the market. It is a cannabinoid that is associated with both cannabis and hemp and medical cannabis. And while we are a medical and a recreational consumer, we really view cannabis in terms of medicine. Even for those that come into our dispensary, there's always a misconception amongst people that they feel that people that come to the dispensary are just always just looking to get high. While there is an audience out there of people that do want the intoxicating effects of cannabis, there's also a very large community, probably more often than not, people that are coming in to deal with a specific condition. So it's really incumbent upon people like us to make sure that our patients, our consumers, understand what products to take, how to take them correctly. It really is kind of a relationship. I know it sounds kind of funny, but like for people that do come into the dispensary, oftentimes we feel like we're kind of their cannabis doctors and saying, hey, follow up with us. Let us know how it's going. Let's continue to be in touch. Because you'll see by the presentation as we learn about cannabis that using it is really a process. It's a process for everyone to uniquely understand what works best for them. So I'll hand it over to Kathleen to share give us a little brief introduction of her and her background.
Hi, thanks for coming. Thanks for having us today. My name is Kathleen McKinnon. I am the president and co-founder of Alternative Wellness Centers. What we do is medical cannabis certifications for people in the state of Massachusetts. Our doctors have been doing this for many years. They're very well versed in treating people with cannabis. They're up to date on a lot of the studies that are out there. And we're just really out there to educate and help the community. I have an education and a healthcare background. I was a dental hygienist for 10 years. I worked in the public schools. So I've kind of have a well-rounded bubble as to that I was able to bring to the cannabis realm. And working in this industry for the past 9 years, it's been amazing to see it grow into what it is, and to see dispensaries like Resonate being able to help patients coming in and offer them an amazing array and assortment of products. So it's a really good symbiotic relationship between our doctors, the dispensaries that are in the industry, and the products that are available.
Yeah, great. And as Clark had mentioned, so I am a local guy. I'm from Millbury, actually. Grew up in the Millbury area. Coached pretty much every sport my son has played, through Millbury, from football, baseball. Had cancer in 2014. Ended up with renal cell carcinoma, kind of a freak thing for a young guy to have, and quickly ended up in the hospital. Went through the process from diagnosis, and I always frame cancer in terms of the three experiences for me, which is really about the diagnosis, the treatment, and the recovery, right? There's three parts to it, and cannabis helps out in a lot of areas, but through that experience, historically I was a manufacturing executive, but I got to understand firsthand the power of the plant and the different benefits that it provides for us medically, and I also get to see the impact of opiates, because you're going through these procedures and the prescriptions of opiates, the Oxycontins, the Vicodins, the Percocets, all the pain relief, it's pretty intense. And at one point I had to kind of advocate for myself and tell the doctors, like, hey, no more pain meds. Like, I'm not interested, I don't need it, I'll take a Tylenol, just to kind of get back on my feet. So going through that whole series of events, I kind of said, well, I saw the cannabis, the industry come to Massachusetts. I understood, I did the research, understood how it could help me. I used it, and we'll talk a lot about those medical benefits today. But that's why I like to go out and speak to people, because often when I'm sitting down with somebody, we're talking about real world conditions. We're not talking about something that we read in an article, or found online. Between disc and neck and back injuries and arthritis, all of that, I've dealt with all of it as a result of sports-related injuries. And again, having a serious diagnosis like that, I think has helped me help a lot of patients to kind of get to what they're trying to achieve. So that's why we're here. And I think at this stage what we'd like to do is talk about why cannabis works. Yes, you can smoke it, and we all know how that works, right? Or at least we have a friend, right? So out of just kind of a show of hands, how many people have consumed cannabis, let's say, ever? All right, great audience. All right, let's say within the last year. Okay, last month? Who's high now? All right, so let's talk about why it works for the body, and how it works. Kathleen, do you want to talk a little bit about the endocannabinoid system?
Sure. So everybody has an endocannabinoid system. Your body is actually built to receive the cannabinoids that are in cannabis. We have cannabinoids within our body. They're called, that's the endocannabinoids, and the cannabinoids that are in the plant are phytocannabinoids. So we have receptors in our body that are built to receive these. And what it does is it helps to bring our body into balance. So it helps regulate mood, appetite, pain, memory, sleep, things like that. What it does is we have receptors in our body, and when we take in those cannabinoids, whether it be from inhaling them or eating them, or even pretty much using them as topicals, they hit the receptors in our body, and it's like a lock and key. So the cannabinoids come in, they hit the receptor, it unlocks the relief. It provides relief to your body. The reason we don't have any deaths from overdose with cannabis is because the receptors that we have, the endocannabinoid receptors throughout our body, CB1 and CB2, are not found in the area that suppresses your breathing or your heart rate.
When you're talking about cannabinoids, are you talking about THC also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So there's over 100 cannabinoids that they've identified. THC being one of the most popular ones. That's the ones that's intoxicating. Then you have CBD, which has been found to have incredible medical properties, anti-inflammatory, neuroprotection, and then there's CBN, which is really good for sleep, CBG, which is good for the stomach, CBC, like there's over 100. So, and we can kind of get into that a little bit more as we go, but it's great when they all work together. So those are the things that you intake. They hit your receptors and they provide relief. And you won't die from it because it's never gonna suppress your breathing or your heart rate like an opiate or a benzodiazepine or something like that.
Yeah, so like when we think about, you know, one of the things that we're seeing today is that people that suffer from Crohn's disease, right? CBG in the cannabis plant, as Kathleen had pointed out, right now with over 100, we know that these cannabinoids provide medical benefits. And the challenge that we have faced is that as a plant being federally illegal, the research hasn't been behind it. Now as that's changing, a lot more research is coming out. So we've learned in a short amount of time that like a cannabinoid, which is part of the cannabis plant, such as CBG, when people take that, they have found that their stomach, you know, people suffering from Crohn's, they've gotten heightened relief from that. It's helped people get off of meds from Crohn's as a result of taking it. We know that cancer patients, when they're going through chemo and radiation, can take a cannabinoid like CBD, which helps to prevent cancer metastasis and reduce inflammation, and as a result, also reduce the risk of neuropathy with cancer patients. We know that this data is out, and we're seeing more and more of it every day. And the reason why it works, and it works uniquely, is because, you know, all of us in this room, we're all different. Everyone's got a unique system. So when it comes to cannabis, we could all have the same condition, and yet need 10 different products for everyone to get to their desired relief. And that's where understanding cannabis and understanding yourself is part of the process. You know, with us, like when people come in, patients will come in, consumers come in, they get used to our products, they get the relief that they want, and it's consistent, they just continue to do it. And sometimes somebody will come in and they'll say, hey, I've got this condition, and we'll recommend a product, and it won't work. It'll work for the next person that walked in the door, but for them it didn't. We had to recommend a different product. And I always share that because it doesn't matter if you're with Resonate or any cannabis dispensary. What matters is that if you look to cannabis for any kind of relief, you got to understand it's a little bit of a process. And you want to work with the dispensary or an expert in the field that's going to help you get to what you're trying to achieve. And that does take time. A lot of times, too, with these cannabinoids like CBD and CBN, it takes time for your body to process it. It's almost like an amoxicillin. It needs to get into the body and it needs to act. So many times with cannabis, part of the challenge is people are so used to a Tylenol. It's instant relief, right? I've got pain, take a Tylenol, it goes away. Well, with cannabis, it might take a little bit to try to figure out a strain or a product that works. You know, there's time that a patient needs to invest in it, and that's part of our responsibility, is to get people to understand that if you try this, tons of benefits. It's all natural, there are significant health benefits, but it's going to be a process for you to try to find a product that works. And it starts with us trying to understand your systems uniquely, and then trying to recommend products that will work within your system. Kind of makes sense? And some of this is confusing. We can get really geeky because we love this stuff. So stop us if we do.
It's on the same premise as if you would go to your doctor and they start you on a new medication, right? They're not just going to write you that script and say, see you next year. They're going to say, let me see you back next month. We'll see how this is doing. Is it working? Do we have to adjust it? Same thing with cannabis. Everybody's different, as Pete said.
And what we've learned is, like, we use the word, we use it all the time, cannabinoid. What is this? Cannabinoid, right? So right now, you can see that we've outlined just a few of them. CBC, THC, CBD, and we're still learning, again, about, there's actually close to 150 now, 100 that are more popular, but 150 that are still emerging every day that we're learning. The ironic part is a little sidebar, the federal government actually owns the patent on cannabis. Isn't that unique? They don't tell you that either, even though it's federally illegal.
And
right.
Antimicrobial.
But, right? But we know that medically, the benefits that we're deriving are coming from two areas, cannabinoids and terpenes. So what's a cannabinoid? Again, a cannabinoid is a compound that exists within the flower that provides these benefits. And that's all it is. It's completely organic, completely natural. It's part of the plant, just like you would go out and you buy tomatoes, you buy pepper, you get your vitamin C. Well, you go out, you buy cannabis, you're going to get certain cannabinoids. And for us, like, if somebody's coming in and saying, well, hey, I'm dealing with inflammation, I'm dealing with neuropathy, I'm dealing with these, then we're going to say, well, maybe that's a product that we want you to consume a product with CBD in it. Hey, Pete, I haven't slept in days. I'm on melatonin, trying to find a different sleep aid. It's very popular. We deal with that all the time. CBN is a product that we know that we have products that we've created with THC and with CBN that'll help patients and consumers get to sleep without the kind of the negative downside of melatonin, right, which is the idea that your brain just wants to continue to get more. This is more natural. It doesn't have that property. Terpenes are really nothing more than your flavonoids or your smells. So there might be many of us who respond to lemon, citrus. Others might like pine or more of a gassy smell. Now, these terpenes, as you can see, piney, just the smell of pine, right? They have been proven to have anti-inflammatory properties. It's helping with those that are suffering from, well, AIDS, antibacterial properties. We have linalool, which helps with anxiety. People that are coming in with mental health issues, it helps to enhance like their moods. Myrcene has been, and beta-caryophyllene, which isn't up there, are two other terpenes that help with pain. We have patients that come in and they have fibromyalgia or they're dealing with CPRS, and we've been able to, depending upon what appeals to them, get them in products that give them pain relief. And while it sounds very medical in nature, a lot of it is pretty simple. It's about smelling products or smelling flower that is relaxing to you. You can start with something as simple as that and saying, this may be a product that's going to give you the benefits you want. But it's because of the terpenes and the cannabinoids that respond with your endocannabinoid system that deliver the results. And we all know THC is the most popular, right? THC is going to give us muscle relaxation. It's going to give us that intoxication. All of the others are going to come without that experience. CBN, again, more of a sleep aid. CBD may not do anything for your mood, but will help with your body over periods of time. Some people claim they feel better from CBD use. And a lot of the claims that we'll make aren't matter of fact. Again, people respond differently, to everyone. You might take a CBD product and feel great, the next person doesn't feel anything. So there's a little bit of that, but this is why cannabis works.
And these are all ingredients that are found inside the cannabis plant. And the terpenes kind of decide whether it's going to be more of an uplifting or relaxing type of experience when you use it.
One stop. So the entourage effect, really important. So the entourage effect is, as I pointed out, we're learning all these things about the plant. So 150 cannabinoids and all these different flavors and scents. They provide all these benefits. When we talk about the entourage effect, we talk about taking the full spectrum of the plant and helping consumers and patients to consume that so that they get all the benefits associated with it. We talk about this because a lot of people, when we come out and talk at senior centers, they'll say, well, what about CBD? What if I just wanted to do that? And what we always talk about is these products are better taken when you're taking as much of the full plant as possible. So some people will say, well, I don't want the intoxicating effect. I don't want to feel this way. And that's reasonable, but what we try to get people to understand is if you have to take an opiate, if you have to take a Percocet or Vicodin or some other sort of medicine, most of these medicines are not natural, they're synthetic, and they come with some side effects, right? Many times if you take a THC in that way, there really is kind of the side effect that comes with it is that intoxication, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So what I like to describe as the kind of cake metaphor with the different ingredients, right? So as Pete said, you can separate out all those different cannabinoids. You can have CBD, you can have THC, you can have the terpenes. Much like you can when you bake the cake, you've got your butter, you've got your flour, your sugar, your eggs, and they're all edible. But when you put them all together, that's when it tastes best. That's when it works best. that full spectrum plant, having all of those ingredients in it, and you can get it with a very little amount of THC and still make it work better than with no THC and still not have those intoxicating effects, because you can have the very minimum amount.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that we talk about when we come in is a lot of people will still say to us, you know, you say all these great things about cannabis, but we remember Nancy Reagan and what she told us back in the 80s, right? And that's reasonable, right? Because we're learning all these different things. But what's really important to understand is when they say, well, is this going to go back? Is this really going to continue? We know that there are drugs today built on cannabis that have FDA approval. Kids are being treated for epilepsy. There's a drug out there called Epidiolex, which was a UK-based product, but it's helping kids under a certain age to help with epilepsy, which is an amazing accomplishment. We have drugs based on cannabis to help with chemotherapy, with appetite acceleration. We have FDA drugs now that help with Alzheimer's as well. And we know that there's several tests going on in Boston around cancer. Specifically, we've seen recently Harvard University and Dana-Farber came together on a study to evaluate pancreatic cancer patients. And they found that there was a particular terpene, part of a cannabis plant, that when taken with CBD helped to prolong life in pancreatic cancer patients. You know, pancreatic cancer is a tough one, right, to treat. So, but 30 to 40% of additional life is advantageous. So this isn't something that is going to be reversed or is going to go away. In fact, you know, we fully expect over the next 10 years we're going to continue to see a ton of research coming out and a lot more products designed to really maximize the benefits of the plant. You know, and right now we're talking about 4 or 5 cannabinoids, but like I said, 150 more. They think that there may be up to 200 that are providing these benefits. So there's still a lot more to learn with the plant.
And for the first time since, I think, 1972, the U.S. is actually allowing research on the plant. So right now, the University of Mississippi was the only place that could do any studies. And I think it's the same study that's been in place since 1972. And what they would do is give a can of pre-rolled joints to these participants, but it wasn't any more than, I think it was 6% THC was the maximum. And it was, you know, just stuff that they grew at the University of Mississippi. So now they're actually starting to allow other entities to do research. So Pete's right, we're gonna see a lot more research here in the US. Like other studies, Israel and France and things like that are much more ahead of us with that.
So risks and benefits. I think it's really important that we always talk about the pros and cons, right? You know, and they're unique to everyone. I always like to start with the risks. You know, associated with cannabis use, yes, you can be tired. You can experience a little dizziness. Some products could enhance anxiety, while others can take it away. Again, that's part of us trying to get customers and patients into the right products. Elevated heart rates, decreased blood pressure, disorientation. So all of these things are reasons why we work with Kathleen's group. Because many times we'll deal with a patient that comes in and says, hey, I'm on a blood thinner. I'm taking this type of medication. And it's really up to us to understand, okay, what are the potential interactions of that drug with cannabis? And many times we'll pick up the phone on a patient's behalf, call Kathleen's office and say, hey, here's the case. And for others that come in, many people will go the route of becoming a patient, and they'll work with Kathleen directly. And once they do that, they obtain their license to buy medically in the state, and then her office can help also guide them to say, well, again, if you're taking these types of meds, take your cannabis at these hours, you know, make sure we time it for the desired effects. But it's really important that we do that. And we take that very seriously, and that's, again, another reason why we like to get out and speak to seniors. Because the last thing that we want to see is someone walk into a dispensary and have them push hundreds of dollars worth of product onto somebody when they shouldn't. Really, this process is about taking it very slow right? Starting very low, meaning we start with a very low dose, we take it slow, we get consumers and patients to begin to understand the process, and then we advance from there. That's typically how we like to work, and regardless, again, of whether or not somebody comes to Resonate, or Caroline's or somebody else, that's really the process that we ask everybody to go through. We ask our dispensaries that carry our products to do the same thing when they're coaching consumers and patients. But it's important to understand that not all dispensaries, and again, this isn't a marketing or sales push, but they're not all the same. The ones that are medical and adult use typically can provide you with more medical insight than the ones that are just recreational. Just kind of keep that in mind. We'll talk about some of the benefits. You get the fun part.
So, as Pete said, definitely there are some risks associated with this, and it's more, I would say, kind of byproducts of using the product. Like a, sorry, I haven't had my coffee and my break. But there are ways. If you do have too much product in you, if you do take too much, there are ways to combat that. So, sometimes people will have a little too much, feel a little panicked, but there's always ways. The benefits of using it, definitely focus. Pain relief is big. Whether you're inhaling, whether you're using edibles, whether you're using topicals, a lot of people use this. One of the top certified condition in Massachusetts is chronic pain. So chronic pain, anxiety, insomnia are actually the top 3 here in Massachusetts. So these products work great for all of those. And it's one of the products, it's one of the substances that can work for a multitude of ailments. So, all right, we get pain, they give opiates. You have anxiety, they give you benzodiazepine. Cannabis covers a multitude of ailments. Anything from cancer, AIDS, seizures, chronic pain, anxiety, depression, insomnia. It's all in the products you use, how much you're using, and what you're using. So sleep aids, nausea relief, relaxing tight muscles. CBD is great for reducing inflammation. There's appetite enhancement. You always say, oh my God, it's like a gateway to the refrigerator. But actually, they're finding that there is a cannabinoid, THCV, that's actually helping with diabetes and appetite suppression. So it's, you can have a strain that's going to treat somebody that has an eating disorder that doesn't eat, or you can treat somebody that has an eating disorder that eats too much. Do you know what I'm saying? So you can control the appetite with less, or you can control the appetite by stimulating it and having it want more.
It's unbelievable to think about the vast spectrum of a lot of this. And it's a lot to understand, but it's really just more about letting you know that there are so many ways to look at it. It's so many different conditions it can satisfy.
Question. Because I haven't heard you mention, what about asthma?
So it's actually a bronchial dilator. So I have asthma. I use it. You shouldn't smoke it. Obviously, anything that you're introducing, combusting into the lungs is a very high heat. Vaporizing it is good. Using like a vapor pen is okay, but it is actually a bronchial dilator. So as long as you're not combusting it and you're using products that you know have been tested and you're not getting it off the street, then there shouldn't be a problem.
Well, the other piece of that is like COPD.
Yes.
Is another area where we've treated a lot of patients, because COPD patients will come in and we know those airways are shrunk, and what ends up happening? They're tight, they're inflamed. So a lot of times consuming cannabis will relax a lot of those muscles and just open up those airways. But to Catherine's point, that's not something that we would recommend, like something that you inhale. It would be more of a tincture product or more of an edible product. And sometimes, a lot of times we're recommending not just one, but maybe a couple of different mechanisms, depending upon what the ailments are. Great question.
I've actually seen, and I don't think I've seen them in mass, but I've seen some products that are almost like an inhaler, so like a mist. So
Just relax.
yeah,
I figured that a lot of times they use like a nebulizer, and that's why I was wondering, well, would it be used?
They're creating new products all the time, but they do know that it is a bronchodilator rather than a bronchoconstrictor. So it does open the airways, and it's all in, like I said, what you're using and how you're using it.
So, really important points, like, and this is something that we cover when people come in at dispensary, how to consume. And understanding how, when, why. It's really just not as simple. I mean, people can walk in and grab something and smoke it and consume it when they want to. But how do we do it in the right way? For example, in that case, if somebody's coming in and dealing with COPD or that type of tightness, then it's really about how do we blend the product with their appetite. If you're consuming products with food, you can get, your body will absorb more of the THC and more of the properties from the edibles versus if you didn't. Those are little things that we will say to patients. Age, weight, sex, all those things will factor in. But again, there's no one way, one size fits all. We've had patients and consumers that come in that have never touched the product before in their life that require 5 times the dosage that I would take just to feel the same way. So that's a lot, again, of the coaching that we try to go through when somebody wants to try something. And that's why I say it's a process. It might be, well, try this, but understand we're going to have to ramp it up over time if we don't get that effect right away.
So polypharmacy is a condition that faces a lot of older people and seniors. They are prescribed, on average, about 5 prescriptions from their doctor, anything from pain relief to high blood pressure, cholesterol, anxiety. So, and what we find is when these patients come to us with their list of medications, working with our doctors, our nurse practitioners, they're able to get off some of these medications that they're on, so to cut that list down. And a lot of times that they find they're on a medication, and then another medication is to combat the side effects of that medication. So, it just makes that list longer and longer. When they come in and meet with our providers and they go over all the medication, they tell them, okay, well, maybe you can replace this, you can replace this. They never want them to stop any medication, never want you to stop any of your medication without discussing it with your primary care or the person that's prescribing it to you. But you can work with your provider to lessen that as you use the cannabis, and it takes the place of those other medications. So if you have a pain medication that you're taking because your knee aches or your back aches, you could try some topicals. Topicals work great. That's one of my favorite products. It doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. You don't get intoxicated from it. It works better than Bengay, and it smells better too. And it's a great product. And you can use it with other products as well, other cannabis products. So it definitely helps to lessen that list of medications. It definitely, saves you money at the pharmacy, because now you can use one product to combat, as I was saying, some of those other things that you're getting 3 or 4 other prescriptions for. Yeah, some of the drug interactions. So especially with CBD, a lot of people think, oh, I can just go to the drugstore or go to the grocery store or the gas station and buy some CBD and take it. It doesn't really work that way. It shouldn't work that way. Because when you take CBD, what happens is it goes and gets processed through your liver. If you're taking any other medications that are processed the same way and you take them together, it may cause a buildup and a toxicity of that medication, not the CBD, but that other medication, because your body's not able to process it because your liver's engaged with processing the CBD. For example, if you've ever been told not to drink grapefruit juice with a certain medication, that's the type of medication that you don't want to take with CBD or a THC product. You wait a couple hours and then you can take it. Or you take that and then you wait a couple hours to take your other products. So there are real interactions that can happen even with just CBD. That's why it's important to talk to your provider that is prescribing you. If you're going to see a cannabis doctor, discuss it with them. People that are on warfarin or blood thinners, it could affect the INR numbers, so you really want to make sure that you're on top of your numbers and just communicate with your providers.
Dosing, okay, so can we get into some of the products now? That's always my favorite part. I always like that part. So numbers of ways that you can consume. Really important to understand because this helps guide us in how we treat patients and consumers. I'll give you an example. I was the 2:33 a.m. wake-up call. I don't know how many of you 2:33 a.m. wake up in the middle of the night. I get many of those people that will come in. I've heard everything from I fall asleep for an hour and then I'm awake for 5, or I go to sleep for 3 hours and then I'm awake for 4. You know, so when I hear these things, a lot of times we will recommend different products based upon how quickly they set in and how long they last. Right? So you'll see here that we talk about smoking and vaping. So ultimately, it's the most immediate way to get into the bloodstream is to inhale something. It does come with, obviously, the disclaimers that inhaling anything in your lungs can be dangerous, but we don't have any evidence to support that cannabis has been a cancer-causing agent or anything like that. At least not, in our communities with our research. Edibles will take a little longer. So gummies, chocolates, beverages. Many of them have different health benefits. It'll take a little bit longer. Some will set in 20 minutes. Some may take up to 2 to 3 hours. So part of that is us understanding what would you like this for and how should you best take it to make that predictable. Because we've had people that would, or I shouldn't say we've had people, but it has happened where someone will try something and then they forget and it goes 3 hours. They take more, and then before they know it, they got a little bit more than they bargained. Right? It's a nice day on the couch watching movies, but might not have been what you hoped for. Tinctures are a little bit quicker. They can be taken in a beverage. They can be taken under the tongue. They can be taken with food. And as Kathleen mentioned, topicals are an enormous area for. We've treated numbers of patients and consumers with arthritis, pain relief. My wife, she doesn't consume anything, but for her back. She has one back condition and a topical gets rid of it just like that. And it's about the only thing that we've been able to find that works. So that's the only way she'll take anything. Yes, sir.
Are the topicals with THC or just CBD?
So we have both, but so there's one thing to understand about that, right? But one of the things that we always say to everybody is when you're going to look at a CBD or a THC or both topical, the only thing that we ask is get those products from a dispensary. And the reason why we say that is because the state of Massachusetts requires us to test everything we produce to guarantee that what you're buying has what's in it. If you go and buy it at a gas station or you buy it somewhere else, there is no government oversight over that product. You could be buying something that has nothing in it. So that's the only reason why we suggest that people go to dispensaries to buy these products. If you don't go to a dispensary and you do go somewhere else, you can ask somebody for a certificate of authenticity, a test, and if they can demonstrate that to you, you want to make sure that what you buy will have the medicine in it. Now, as far as my opinion on that, many customers and patients will report that CBD topicals have helped, especially if they're dealing with a lot of inflammation. By my personal experience, anything with THC is a more effective product. And the reason for that is it does not make you feel intoxicated. A topical will not do that. But a THC-infused topical, in my experience, almost provides immediate pain relief and arthritis relief.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I've shared with you my experience as to how I've gotten into this industry. And I've had to go through a lot of this myself to be a believer on a lot of these products. And when I was kind of coming through, I had the same type of joint, nerve pain, I had neck damage, and I've used these products, and it really kind of made a believer out of me. My 95-year-old grandmother now uses them for her arthritis, and she gets relief from it. So, all different ways you can do it. Historically, we used to say that even the topicals were not quite as effective as some of the oral products. But today, there are so many more products that are proving to be so effective from a topical standpoint that it really shouldn't be ignored.
Right. And I think to, what, as Pete was saying, he may see a lot of people that get relief from CBD, but I know when our patients come to us and that have been using CBD, and they say, you know, I've been using these products and they're not helping, what can I do? And that's when they, you know, talk to the doctor, and they say, okay, well, maybe it is time for me to get my card, get into these dispensaries, and get the products that are really gonna have the full spectrum of the plant and really make that difference.
Do you need a card in Massachusetts?
You don't need a card. You can certainly purchase in any recreational dispensary. The only difference being is you will pay tax, 20% minimum. And the products, the milligrams or the strength of the products are a little bit different. They're less on the recreational side. And the amount that you can purchase is different as a patient as well.
Yeah, the biggest thing about being a patient there are several benefits, but one is you get home delivery. Number two, there's no sales tax associated, and that's 20%. So that's significant. Number three, there's different products and different doses of products that are available to you. But fourth, and it's probably the most important, is most medical dispensaries like ours will give back up to $200 to consumers who've got their medical license to cover the cost. So you may come in and over 4 visits get $50 back, so you might pay next to nothing for the products you bring in. So there's an expense, but you get that back, yes.
I'm not understanding the connection there, medical license and.
Yeah, so
cards and.
Sure, and let me explain. The state of Massachusetts, when they first started this, came out with a medical program. And that's where we started. And as part of that, what they did is they established certifying doctors like Kathleen's company. And certifying doctors will talk to consumers and patients that come in, and they will say, you qualify, you have a condition that would qualify you to try these medical products. As an example, it could be sleep, stress. The state of Massachusetts doesn't make it difficult. So don't be concerned whether or not you qualify. They more or less want to hear, okay, you're interested in cannabis, you want to try it medically, you have some conditions. They'll have you speak to a doctor to make sure you're comfortable, and then they'll issue you a license. Now, your doctors that you go see, like Kathleen, they do that all over the phone, all over computer. They register you with the state. By the time you get off the phone or walk out of their office, you have everything you need to become a patient and walk into a dispensary. And you would do that. Doesn't mean that you couldn't go into a dispensary and buy a product recreationally. Without a license, you can't. But if you go the route of a medical license, you have all these added benefits that the state allows us to provide. We can't do that for recreational. You have to pay the tax. We can't offer discounts for recreational users. We don't do home delivery for rec. It is starting to become more available. But for patients, there's a ton of added benefits, and we just need to make sure you understand what those are. For example, if you've got a medical license and it costs you $100, $150, whatever Kathleen's cost would be, you get that, and then you can go in a dispensary, or you can go into any medical dispensary in the state of Mass, and all of them will give you money towards your future purchases to cover your cost of licensing. So there's a ton of things that you just, and I don't want to get into all the reasons why you should do it. Like, that's not the point. I just want you to be aware that there is a medical program and there is a recreational program, and the differences are, if you're medical, you don't pay state tax. There's a lot more. You can get home delivery from any of us. We'll come right to your house and drop it off. You get tons of financial benefits and discounts that come as a result of that.
And this medical license is good for how long?
It's usually like a couple of
1
years
year.
now. 1 year now.
1 year.
They're trying to extend that.
Yeah.
So it's 1 year and it renews. So within the 1 year time frame, you get it, and then you call your doctor back. You'll get an email reminder, and you call them back, and they walk you through a renewal process. And again, the beauty of it is they make it so easy to do. Like, you pick up the phone, hey, how you been? Anything changed medically? Yeah, I've had this condition. Okay. They'll coach you or provide the medical advice around how to properly take your products, considering that. and then they renew you with the state, and once you get off the phone, they email it to you, and you get a paper copy, and you just walk into a dispensary, and that's it.
And what kind of doctor are you, Kathleen?
I'm not a doctor. We have doctors that work with us, so we have 4 doctors and 2 nurse practitioners that work with us.
Okay, all this is done
Our
on the
medical
phone?
director is an anesthesiologist, pain management doctor. We have one of our nurse practitioners is a psych doctor, so she has her doctorate in psychiatry, so she does a lot of anxiety and depression and works with a lot of mental health, things like that. We have another doctor who has been, she's a DO, so she does total body health and wellness. She's been working in the cannabis realm for about 15 years now between California and Massachusetts. We have another nurse practitioner who's actually a school nurse as well, so she works with us part-time. But all the doctors and nurse practitioners are, they do have to take a course in cannabis to become certified with the state to be able to recommend it to patients. And all of the doctors and nurse practitioners that we have, with the exception of our new school nurse, have been doing this for, our medical director's been doing it for 9 years, Dr. Canton's been doing it for about 15, and so they've been doing it for multiple years. They've worked with thousands upon thousands of patients here in Massachusetts over the years. So and these are repeat patients, right? They come back year after year. We have an open door policy at Alternative Wellness Centers, so at any time throughout the year, if you need to speak to a provider or an educator, you can call us or email us. The doctors and nurse practitioners are more than happy to reach out, have any conversation with you, recommend different products. If something's not working, they can help you with that. And that's all for that, that just one price. You never have to pay any more for
And
the
that's
year.
$150?
It's $150 when we do these, when we come into the community and do these outreach and education sessions, we do offer it for $99. So if you want to give us your name, we can make sure we put you in. If you call me for appointment, we'll discount it down to $99.
And the appointment, everything's done on the phone? Is that
It
what you
is,
said?
it's all done online. You book your appointment, you get an email. It's just like going to your regular doctor. They'll say, what are you coming in for? Do you take any medication? Are you currently using the medication? What do you want to use it for? They just ask you, do you smoke, use alcohol? It's like
So you
regular.
don't ever actually see the doctor?
You do a video face-to-face with the doctor over the
Okay.
video, yes, so you will see the doctor.
Do you have a brick and mortar place?
We do have a brick and mortar. We are in Worcester, and we're in Hadley, Mass, which is out by Western Mass.
Okay. And you are in Worcester?
I'm in Worcester, yes, on the old 146.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, so the old one, so we are actually over by the Walmart. Yes, that Hillbury Street, where the old Colonial Seafood used to be. If you remember that one, up by like Holy Name, Granite Street and Cliff Street. So we're right at the bottom of that. So let's talk about some of the products. We brought samples to look at. One of the things that I like to do is I like to go around and bring some flower. We talked a lot about the cannabinoids, and not to suggest that anybody should consume one way or the other, but just when we talk about cannabinoids and we talk about the terpenes, we've all heard that cannabis has a little scent. Well, some of it smells a little bit different, and one of the things that we like to do when people come in and they're looking for certain, like relief from conditions, is we like them to smell the product, and if they find that it's a smell that they like, many times we'll use that as a way to start exploring that type of profile of the plant. So this is a strain that we have, and I'll bring it around, and we have some other products that we'll get into.
And it's the terpenes that you're actually smelling in that.
Smells pretty strong. Do you like? Some people like the smell. Some people don't. Right, and that's what we talk about with. And this is actually a CBD
Yeah.
THC strain. So it has equal
Yeah, it
parts
can be a real.
of CBD and THC in it. So for people that are looking for like something that's more anti-anxiety,
Fewer
This is
people
strawberry
think are
lotus.
just smoking.
Light with-
So,
I love
you
it.
know, they either use the vaporizer or they go to one of the
Gotcha.
products with, you know.
So this is a product that, again, if I'm going around and talking to somebody about CBD, what do you think? Doesn't smell like those brownies, does it? Do you? I do too,
Yeah, it's-
but some
my-
people don't.
my
It smells
son
strong,
has
doesn't
gotten
it?
a medical license for
But
it.
this is actually a very mild product. This is not
But
strong.
he usually does use either the gummies or
And
some,
flour
you
is
know, things like
the most
candy form of
complete way of consuming the product because it has all of the cannabinoids and terpenes. If you smelled this in the 70s, and you had some great products. It definitely is. And this is what it looks like. Again, like a lot of times you go into a dispensary and there's a line, there are people coming up, and you want to ask these questions. Yep, I'll bring it over. And that's why we bring it here, so people can see it and not
and
feel
it does
intimidated,
take away
you know, by it.
aches and pains at night. It just-
Would you like a smell? So again, this is like one of our more medical grades. Because it has such a high degree of CBD in it. So then, you know, so that's the flower. When we get into like the most immediate way, again, like we talked about, inhaling the product is the most immediate. And then we have products like our edibles. Now these are infused, okay, but I can pass around the bag. But a product like this, well, you can, sure, if you want to see it. Absolutely. So the edibles are probably more of the most consumed item.
Yeah.
With a lot of these products, when I'm going out and speaking to people, like that particular product is a pectin-based product. You've heard of gummies, we know chocolates, all these different products, but for many of us, like we don't want the high degrees of sugar, we don't want the unhealthy part of cannabis. One of the things that we do, it's just a company decision, is the products that we carry and we produce are pure, like our chocolate products are real chocolate. We don't use products like chocolate coating. That's very popular. You can go into many places, try chocolate coating, your body doesn't break it down, it doesn't process it like it would a regular chocolate. So we just make products that are more healthy for you. Gelatin products are made of beef and pork foods. Apple pectin-based products like that are made from pectin. That's what we use. And the majority of the ingredients in that are completely all natural. Even back to the THC that we put into it is completely natural with no solvents, no contaminants. Every part of it is tested for health benefits. So that particular product is called Smokies, and then we make chocolate bars. So we make a white, and I'll just pass this one around as well. We make a white, a milk, we're working on a sugar-free, and we make a dark chocolate product. And a lot of the dark chocolate products are more popular because they're better for you. So we mix them. We'll have a product like the chocolate bar where we introduce CBN. So again, for patients that are coming to us looking for sleep, that's one of the products that I recommend all the time. And I know it's counterintuitive, so Pete, you tell me to eat chocolate before you go to sleep. Yes. That's what I'm saying. A nice dark chocolate piece, if for those that can't sleep, will help. It may last up to 6 to 8 hours. So if you're looking for that period of sleep, I'm not going to recommend a product like a gummy that might last 3 to 4. I'm going to recommend a product like that that'll last 6 to 8 hours. So that's a lot of why when people come in to see us, it's really about what are you trying to do? I can take that for you and pass it around. And this type of product you can see when you're looking at it on the back, we have all the serving size information, but we also put in the cannabinoids. Should be a little batch label on that, like right on the front. And that says what is actually in the product from a THC perspective.
It may be.
So for those that, we have a couple of patients now, like I said, that are dealing with Crohn's. Gastritis has been a big one. We recommend chocolate bars that have CBG in it. So for people that come to us about stomach issues, we'll recommend those types of products. So you can kind of see there's so many different things, and it's really about what works for you.
We have, one of our girls that works with us was just diagnosed with breast cancer. So we started her on a regimen of suppositories. So one of our doctors that's very versed in working with cancer patients has a recipe. So we were able to go to the dispensary, purchase the products we need, make the suppositories for her, and she's using them for her cancer treatment. And with the suppositories, it's good because you don't feel that overwhelming intoxication, because it is a little bit higher to treat cancer. It's a little bit stronger. So using it as a suppository, you don't get that overwhelming intoxication. So there's many different products that you can use for different things.
So this is an example of a tincture. Many of you may have seen these. It's not really anything unique. You can see these in a lot of stores. But with the tinctures, they come with a medicine dropper, and inside you can see all the dosing. So what people really like about the tinctures is that when we talk about starting low and slow, they can look at this and take, let's say, a minimum amount and gradually work themselves up depending upon the outcome. So this is a tincture that people would use for sleep. We have tinctures that are really high in CBD. So typically when I'm talking to my cancer patients, I will always recommend about the highest dose of CBD possible, 100, 200, 400 milligrams a day, and immediately. That's one area that concerns me in the market, is that most doctors, because they haven't gone through the training, they don't do enough to recommend CBD, but we have enough data that shows that it does prevent cancer metastasis, it does slow it down, and it can prolong life. So I'm constantly promoting that for those, especially survivors. It's not a large cost for me, like I consume CBD all the time. It's not about being high, it's about consuming CBD for ongoing health and keeping the cancer away. So these are like a product like this would be something that if somebody said, I want something that's within 10 to 15 minutes, but I don't want to smoke it and I need it for pain, this is a nice balance. An edible might take 45 minutes, this may take 10 to 15. So as you can see, there's all different things that directions that we might steer somebody depending upon what they're looking to achieve.
And that's very easy to use. You just put it under your tongue, and it would absorb through all your blood vessels under your tongue, or you could mix it in with some tea or some juice and take it that way as well.
You take it directly.
That's fine.
How does it taste?
It all depends on the product. Some don't taste very good, and some are very
I
mild.
want to talk about that
You don't
just for a
taste
second.
anything.
So it's a great question that was asked, which is like, that's called dream, and we use it for sleep. But could that be used for pain? And I'll tell you again, my experience. 35, I was supposed to have a disc fusion from ongoing sports-related injuries. I didn't want to do it, so I took a product that had equal parts CBD and THC. It took me 45 days of taking this product every day. Now, the reason why THC and the full entourage effect, why that's so important, is because when you're treating like disc, neck, back-related injuries, when you think about what's really going on, right, your back, your neck, you're inflamed, right? It's inflamed, your muscles go into spasm, creates all those issues. Well, when you take a product like a one-to-one, for me, over 45 days, what ends up happening is you go to sleep, your body goes into recovery. During that period, you have the THC, which is relaxing the muscles, and you have the CBD, which is reducing inflammation. So it doesn't happen overnight that we get to success, but it took me 45 days. So that was 35, I'm 47 now, I never had the fusion, have full feeling back in my fingers, don't have the numbness anymore. So just as an example that yes, a lot of times THC is the mechanism, it's the cannabinoid we recommend for pain treatment, but it's not the only one. We want to attack it from all angles depending upon how it is. If somebody comes to us with arthritis, again, that would be something where I'd say the same thing. We want something with high degrees of THC, and we want CBD in it. Sometimes we even want more CBD than we want the THC, but it's important that they work together to help with both inflammation and the muscle tightness.
So Pete kind of just said something important. He said one-to-one.
Sorry.
And
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I know, people are like, what's that? So what that means is 1 part THC to 1 part CBD, or equal
Sorry,
parts,
yes.
right? So, and as he said, you can get a 2-to-1, you can get a 10-to-1, you can get a 20-to-1, right? It all depends, and that's where I was saying you can get a product that still has that little bit of THC in it, but more CBD where you're not gonna feel that psychoactive effect. But it has that THC to really make that CBD work. So if you were to say, I'm looking for a 20-to-1 tincture, it would be 1 part THC to 20 parts CBD.
It's really just the amount of milligrams. That's what we're referring to. So it just means that if one product has 5 milligrams of THC, it's a 1-to-1, then it's 5 milligrams of CBD in it. That's all that means. So, and a lot of the products that we carry, including like we have a gummies going around, that is a gelatin-based gummy, that's 1 part CBD, 1 part THC. You'll see that we have that, and we also have beverages. Now, the beverages are really important because we have people that may suffer from esophageal issues, esophageal cancers, things like that, where they can't, either that or processing food may be a problem. But beverages like this are coming out more and more, and they have CBD in them and THC, and they're very low dose. So a lot of times, for somebody that might even suffer from like a little bit of anxiety, they want something like that. A very low dose beverage with no sugar, no caffeine in it, something like this can be helpful. Again, I'm not selling the brand. There are several of these out there, but that's the reason why somebody would go to a beverage versus maybe an edible, is that they want something a little bit quicker, and they may want something that has no sugar, and it's actually pretty good for you and somewhat tasty. The other interesting thing about cannabis is that we've seen a 29% reduction in OUI and alcohol, as well as opiate-related deaths in states that have adopted medical cannabis laws. So it's very interesting to see, like, this is the trend that people are moving to something that's safer, that's better, that's healthier for you, but still provides that stress relief and relaxation. So, yes?
Just so I understand the process, so once somebody goes to the doctor, do they decide the percentage and it's a compound that you put together, or you already have the products made?
Yeah, so we put together a lot of these products based upon what we know.
Oh, okay.
So we know that with like many of the products, the flour, the gummies, like the chocolates, we put in the compounds that will help with your stomach, that'll help with inflammation. So a lot of times it's people coming in and saying, hey, here's the issue. The number one thing that that we really want is we don't want people to come into this industry or look at these products and go, I've tried it once, or I walked in and, like I said, they maybe spend all this money, and then they didn't take it right and say, and that's what I probably deal with the most. I deal with people that don't take the products the right way, or they look for immediate relief and they lose expectations. And again, that's why we try to come out and speak to people.
Right.
Yeah, it's not about saying buy all this, it's about really, hey Pete, I've got this stomach condition, like I'm not sleeping. Okay, great. We're gonna recommend this one product that's gonna have a healthy profile for you. Let's go that way.
So the products are pre-made.
It is.
It
Okay.
is, yeah.
They're all
So it's
pre-made.
not like going into a pharmacy where they're mixing everything
that's
right
what it
there for you.
sounds like
No,
you have a
they're
compound that-
pre-made. It's like, you go
Great
into
question.
Shaw's and, okay, they have this brand, they have this brand, they have this brand.
Right.
Same type of thing at the dispensary, right? The dispensary has the brands that they've made, that they've created. Other manufacturers have created other brands.
Right.
And they're all being sold at the dispensary, so they're already pre-made, but there are products that will focus on specific ailments. So there are ones that have more of the CBG or more of the CBD, things like that.
And in your office,
and that's
do they
an
have,
area
like,
where,
ongoing
again, like coming
studies
in,
that
we
they're
wanna
doing all the time
kinda
to
understand
see,
what it
you know,
appeals to you.
Well,
what
I mean,
you
we
like, you know.
don't specifically do ongoing studies, but we do work
So
with
we want to
groups
be
in the
sensitive
industry.
to certain things that you
Mainly
may
the
take.
Cannabis Center of Excellence. They've
So
done
if you don't,
studies,
it's not
actually the
going to
BBC just picked up their
reduce your
COVID and
cholesterol.
cannabis studies. So we've
There
been
isn't
part of their
part of
healthcare
cannabis
provider
that
study,
would do that
we've been
to
part of
our
their
knowledge.
COVID study.
only
So
thing
we've
that it
worked
could
with
do
them,
is, like,
McLean
have some
Hospital in
appetite suppressant
Boston.
to keep you away
We've
from
worked
the
with
things that
them
drive that
to be part
cholesterol
of,
down.
any patients that want to be part of
But
those
unfortunately,
studies.
there's nothing there to
And
reduce
where
cholesterol.
is the
Yeah, I wish they did. 'cause
Where
I would
are
take
you
this.
guys with trying to get like funding, or is like Medicare or any insurance coverage at this point, or is it all out
No,
of
so
pocket?
it's all out of pocket. It is
Do you see
still
it moving
federally.
in that direction? And some, you know, the fact that you're coming out to senior centers, I'm like, I don't know, maybe the government's starting to look at this stuff.
Eventually, they will deschedule or reschedule. We're not there yet, but we're working towards that. Right now, it's
I'm just
still
trying to decide, is it
federally.
affordable?
Right.
It can be, again, more so on the medical side is really the affordability. And really, it does depend on the condition, because there are some conditions that require a very heavy expense.
Right.
And when that happens, again, on the medical side, we can discount down for customers and patients. On the recreational side, we can't.
But they're not, like there's no funding coming in for anything for the patients.
No, the only thing we're seeing is really the
I'm kind of surprised by that, because it's not.
Well, Medicare.
and they own the patent.
Right,
Right.
well, when you said that, my brain was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Medicare has saved over $4 million in prescription benefits
Right,
in states
Right.
that have a medical program.
right,
So a lot of people are coming off of their
Right.
prescribed medications using it,
Right.
and Medicare sees.
right,
So the government sees
right.
the efficacy.
Yeah.
They
But
hold the
big,
patent.
big pharma,
Big Pharma has deep pockets.
And even the addiction
I mean, I hate to
industry.
say it, but
Yeah.
that's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
We run into the same thing with Suboxone and methadone. Unfortunately, as a local employer, I had we used to do a pretty significant work release program with the sheriff's department. So we brought in a lot of people that, would come in that were in jail for drug use of some kind. And the number one thing that industry would promote is that cannabis is the enemy. And it's because Suboxone and methadone is really the only path that they can go in. And cannabis has had a tremendous amount of success treating patients that are suffering from addiction.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
So, when you said that you took it at 35 for your back and stuff, do you have to then continue to take it?
No, and I'm glad that you brought that up. Like, the one thing that, I just want to approach that subject. So there's a really good question about consuming the products, which was, once you start, can you stop? And the answer to that is 100% yes. That's the best part about it. Like, for me, I took that product that I told you for my neck, I took it for 45 days, then I stopped. Now, if anybody knows neck and back injuries, right, they never completely go away. So occasionally I'll get a flare-up, and when I do, I go back to the product, and I use it on a daily basis until it goes away, and then I stop. And there's no addictive properties, it doesn't impact my sleep or my regular, life, but it's helped me to deal with that condition. And to me, it's like if you could prevent surgery through something like that, that's, I hate to say, you go to your doctor, what do? They recommend you a surgeon. It's like the first thing that they do. Well, you don't go to a surgeon, for an oil change, right? You go to a surgeon for surgery. They're not gonna tell you not to. That's what they do. So to me, it's about, can we find alternative products that can help get us there? You gotta be patient, and sometimes you gotta work on it a little bit. That's the challenge.
Did you try the THC topical? first,
Yeah,
or you went right to the?
So that's kind of how it started for me, because I was getting it in my hands, like from a neck injury, right? So I was getting the numbness, and I was getting the pain. And a lot of times when that starts from the neck, it starts as pain first, and then goes into numbness. So I started the topical, and look, I'll tell you the truth, it was sitting on my desk, and I thought, there's no way this is gonna work. So like most people, that's what I thought. And I said, I've got to try this because it's killing me. I was literally like this. I tried it, and it was instant for me. It went away, I went back to work, I had no issues. I didn't use a topical after that. Like, it fixed, I went back to like the oral, and I just stayed on my routine. And then after 45 days, it went away. And like I said, I still deal with back issues. It doesn't cure it. It just helps me treat the pain safely. I also, because I had cancer, ibuprofen, for the kidneys, it's just not good.
Right.
So Tylenol, ibuprofen is not good. So you start looking at alternatives, and when I tell you, when Clark came in and saw the facility, what a lot of people don't understand is you see how natural and organic this is. Like, literally, we are growing a plant with no pesticides, Like, we can't use products like nutrients and pesticides that would be put on your apples. We can't use anything. We literally grow a plant in an ideal condition. Temperature is perfect. We feed it its nutrients. We don't use pests. You know what we use for pest maintenance in the event we get them? Bugs. That's what we use. We buy bugs. We buy predators that kill other predators even if we don't have it. So when we talk about like how natural and organic this is, that's it. I mean, it's a plant. It has its nutrients. We strip everything out of it. Everything gets tested. I mean, you couldn't get a better, more organic.
What does it get tested on? People, animals?
It gets tested for heavy metals.
The labs,
There's one.
there are independent labs here in Massachusetts, 3 different ones, and I believe there is a couple more coming.
What do they test animals?
They do not test
No.
animals, they take the bud, the flower that Pete
They
went
test
around,
the chemicals
that
in the
everybody
plant.
smelled, and they test for heavy metals, pesticides.
Mold,
Oh, okay.
insecticides. They make sure that there's nothing in it. And if there is, we don't pass.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so the state of Massachusetts is extremely rigid in this area.
Actually,
It's
Excuse me,
oh,
when I visited this last week, it was like going to Disney World where they do hydroponic planting.
Yeah.
You ever see that?
Yeah.
They do things upside down, they do things very carefully done, but it was like seeing that, and I think we were talking about that.
Yeah. And then after that, the funny thing is what we do is not really all that unique. Like when we talk about products like these, which are the oils, or even the topicals, you buy shampoos, skincare products. Like the lilac that you buy, all those smells and fragrances are all coming out of plants. We're doing basic plant extraction. We're taking the oils out of the plant and we create different products with them. And this is just an example too, and I just wanted to pass this around of an inhalation device. This is a vaporizer. And again, we do recommend this for people like anxiety, people that need like immediate help, they can take this. But I just, again, want you to see what all of these products look like. If you were to go into a dispensary, these are all the types of things that you would see. The 2 tins that we passed around, you might have seen those. That is actually cannabis in a pill form. So we've seen it.
Everything is kind of stuck on this table.
Yes.
Ladies,
We were busy talking.
Yeah, all right. You better check those packages. Make sure
Check
there's
security.
no products in there.
let's check our bags.
Check our purses.
Sure. They're smiling a lot more than everybody else.
can we take one more question?
Go that
So
way.
maybe we can do Q&A
Not
after or
some.
something?
Yes.
Oh, wait, I have a drink here, is this
So those are the beverages. The tins are capsules, like I said, and you'll read that they have different effect based on them. So there's Midnight, there's Go. Some of these products have vitamin C, vitamin D, different vitamins in it. Others have caffeine to help you get going. That's what Go is for. Midnight may have melatonin in it to help you sleep. I talked a little bit about CBN as an alternative to melatonin for sleep. That's the thing about, again, all these different products is there's so many to choose from, and it's really about what do you like, what do you want, and how do we get you there.
And there's nothing you brought tonight that we can buy,
Well, unfortunately, like all of this.
like the salve,
No, I can't. Unfortunately, all of this has to go to waste because we can't bring this back.
Oh,
I gotta ask Clark here to throw all this away. So, I don't know what you're talking about. I can't do any of that, all of it. No, I'm kidding. Now I'm gonna ask Clark to do it since I'm on camera. Kidding.
Anyone else? Anyone else?
We are passing around a topical as well, to just kind of look at and smell,
Yeah.
so you can see that.
So, like a jar of the topical, if you get the license and everything else, approximately what would the cost of that be?
So the topicals range, they come in like different sizes, right?
Right.
So it could be anywhere from like $30 to $60 in that range. Yep, great for elbows, joints, back, neck, all of
I
it.
have a tin that I've used.
So we're running out of time, but you can still spend time with Peter. I just want to say thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Peter, so much. But actually, Lydia and Carol put together all those little bags for you.
Nice.
And coordinated all this with me and Diane, and I just want to thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, you want to spend time?